Let me ask a first question to you, dear guests. Every new technology brings a lot of excitement. I heard it in the breakfast. Everybody is, well, this is really top. But on the other hand, there's always a but, some skepticism and some concerns. And we often compare it with the bubble, the hype of the 2000 and of the internet. Is this another bubble or is it real? So Jukka, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I would say it depends on the point of view. If you are an investor looking to make quick cash, it might be a bubble on certain companies. I mean, the valuations can go really high. It might be justified, it might be not, but as an end user of AI, I already see like Janne said, the beef there. So most certainly it's not entirely bubble. So investors' point of view, you should be cautious if aiming to tenfold your investment in the AI hyper tsunami, but as end user, not so much. And we still do use the internet every day, so it was not a bubble. Even my dishwasher is on the internet today, so I predict same kind of end result out of this.
Yeah, I think that my opinion is that those are very two different things. I mean, I guess that most of us we have been living this time, right? Do you remember the year 2000? Mobile internet, yeah, the bubble and things. I think those are two different things. So first of all, when I recall back 25 years ago, I would say that, lots of fintechs, lots of companies over-evaluated a value chain that was actually not ready at all. I mean, we were just thinking about, okay, let's have 3G everywhere and buy stuff with our mobile phone and what have you. And then when you think about actually all the chains, most of them were missing in order for the end user to, do the job. So again, 25 years ago, over-evaluated companies that actually didn't generate any revenues. So that was really a bubble, a big bubble. When we think about today, I think it's right what you're saying, Jukka, that actually there is a beef, right? Where we are using it every day. Everybody is using it either from home or from work. But I would say also that there is profit. I mean, Microsoft, Nvidia, they are making benefits out of this. This is a business, and when the business roll, it will roll. So that's my opinion about it.
Yeah, I think there is one very big difference, right? While both evaluation are based on future speculation, the biggest difference is what Philippe already started to talk. With the internet bubble at that time, the revenue was almost non-existing, and the same for business, for the business model, right? So how they were evaluating, they were counting the clicks, they were looking at the website scrolls. It was not really future proven at that point, right? While AI is already there, we are using the AI every day. So, for example, if you open your phone, you have the ChatGPT. I doubt that we have people here that are not using ChatGPT. When you're going to Netflix, we are using AI to do to recommend what movies or series are the best for us. If I type on my phone, it's basically recommending me the next war. So it's here to stay for a consumer. And then if you look at the enterprise AI, we're already using the AI to improve the efficiency. I think there were some official numbers with the copilots and these assistants. We were able to increase 20% of efficiency. We are able to code faster, right? So the value is already there. And one more thing I would like to highlight here is also the time to value. So for example, in dot-com era, it was a bit harder to calculate or get to the value. You had to build all of this, let's say, website, apps, basically the infrastructure. It was costly and the ROI was not clear. Everybody knew that this will probably happen, but didn't know how. But with the AI, the companies are realizing and getting the value in weeks or months at most. And this is what I would say is the biggest difference between previous era and today with the AI.
And perhaps I could also add something. You were mentioning about somehow the adoption. So I think it was pretty wise actually. OpenAI and ChatGPT and Copilot just like covered the whole world, the whole globe already years ago, so that everybody could just go online and try and see what it is, and see with your own eyes actually the value behind an AI query. So already it was at our doorstep, and everybody could use it at home. So which was way completely different as in .com or mobile internet services that were actually not available for the end users like 25 years back.
Sure. Accessibility is a key factor, I would say. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the very important ones, for sure.
And that's globally, of course. This was like a global launch, I mean, a few
Yes.
years ago.
I think if you looked at the time for achieving 1 million users, I think the ChatGPT was by far the quickest. Before the Facebook, before the TikToks, and much faster than the rest. I forgot what are the others.
Yeah.
So, in summary, I should say, or could say, AI is already present in our lives for a long time, and it will only increase more and become more transformative than ever before, and it is a reality. Okay, good first point. The second challenge I want to give to you is the following. As you know, as I shared, I'm living in Belgium, and there was an announcement in the Netherlands by a large bank called ABN AMRO, and they announced last week that they would put 5,300 people on the street because of AI. And I was shocked because my opinion, this is a wrong leadership communication, right? As a leader, you need to be prepared, and you need to at least coach your team to be ready for the AI of tomorrow. So curious how you see that, how you believe the role of leadership is playing a role in the whole of AI. I know who wants to start, Jukka?
Well, I can start. Well, maybe I'll comment the first part, that will AI take our jobs, or how do we prepare when we start to see the big results? That's a tough one to answer, but I think in very near future, I already talked about the upskilling and talent remix stuff, that you are able to be a better professional with AI. So at the moment, I'm willing to say, not to predict too much into the future, that it will be beneficial for each of us to learn how to use AI and mix our talents and upskill our professional profile.
Yeah, I think also that to come back to the to the first question, that it's true that we hear it quite often, and it's this kind of dramatic news. AI is going to take our jobs. What are we going to do? Catastrophe. So what I believe, this is not happening, but what will happen, that's for sure, is that a professional, let's say a banking professional, who use AI will absolutely replace a banking professional that doesn't use AI. That's it. So Jukka, you were mentioning, there's this it's a new literacy. So it will be part of everyday tooling, within the enterprise, within the bank. So that it's just part of it. So, and in order for the bank personnel also to be more in control of this, that's obviously that they'll have to learn new skills. So the prompting, obviously, to control the agent, to have different type of relationship communication with their basically colleagues from all over the place. So I liked your the example that you did with a printer, as in how important, how horizontal actually the communication has to be in the field of AI, because, well, everybody has to be to keep up with the pace of it. So yeah, I mean, yes, and the type of leadership for this, that's very much like leaders. They need to perhaps reinvent themselves. They have to be basically promoting. They have to be using this on a daily basis. They have to set up the boundaries. There are education programs to be put in place. So that's for sure.
again, I agree. Leadership is going to be very crucial, and we will start asking. We will have to switch the narrative from asking, "Can the AI do it?" to "Should the AI doing?" And what will now the people who previously done that, what is going to be their new role, right? Because what I'm also noticing with some of our customers, basically they reach out to us. We want to build this using the AI, but it's not an AI use case. It's simple statistic or maybe traditional programming. And the AI, it's more expensive, it's more complex, and it's harder to manage. So it's really important to know when to use the AI, and also at least equally as important when not to use the AI. But there, the second component that I mentioned, what's going to happen with these people, I think it's going to be up to the leadership to decide how I can now utilize additional workforce. They know my processes, they know my organization. So how can I basically upskill them to bring me even more value than before? We all know today on the market, we're all competing for the talents. For us, it's super hard to hire the right people. I know it's the same with banks. So we don't have the issue with too many employees, but with too little. So this is for us the opportunity to actually do what we wanted to do, actually for cheaper. And this is what I think is going to be the shift in mindset that we have to start thinking. Not how I'm going to have less people, but how I'm going to achieve more with the same amount.
Excellent. Good thoughts. And this brings me immediately then to the next. You are talking a lot about people and skills. So what do you believe are then the key skills that each of us, we should focus on to stay relevant in the AI world of tomorrow?
Well, I once again like to start from the basics, that you actually need to know what you are doing. Because if you, let's take this to another context. If you cannot, you're an ice hockey coach, you cannot actually play, you don't understand the rules, you don't understand anything, and you ask AI to deliver me a good way of playing the playbook to follow with my players, you are not able to actually validate, is this okay? And the second, let's go even more basic. The basic skill to be able to read and comprehend what you are reading, I predict will be the next superpower for humans, and especially for the kids. If you cannot read, if you cannot understand context and the words and the meanings and the hidden meanings, you will not be able to use AI. You will not understand what the AI does. So read books, people.
Yes.
You wrote one. The one who was uploading.
Yeah, read books and start your day with prompting. Prompting is the new PowerPoint, right? So instead of getting our hands, okay, I need to do that presentation. So we will start our working journey not with the tool that we are used to, where we are actually the processor, the controller, the monitor of the task. But we will ask first assistance, and we'll ask guidance. The things we don't know, we can also ask from, as we saw today, various examples. But I will say that, that's and this is starting a day with a good prompt. It's so easy to prompt. I mean, you open a Copilot session, and then you start by defining, okay, this is the role Copilot. You're going to help me in doing this kind of task today. Just write it plainly. And then this is the context. You are playing the role of this. This is the context. This is the bank. This is the APIs you can achieve. This is my Confluence page. This is my SharePoint page that I want you to look at. And then instructions, and also instructions not to, and what have you. So those are it's just like writing a story and asking for help for someone start from the morning. And the deliverables, the outcome could be a PowerPoint, it could be a task, it could be a meeting, it could be whatever. But the starting point, the starting journey of the work day will be prompting. That's what I will anticipate in my opinion. So this is the kind of skill that people have to have now.
Okay. I would also like to add one skill before I go into the details, and this is critical thinking. I think what's the huge the huge risk what can happen today is over-reliance of the AI. I saw it, I see it with my wife, with my parents. They're using the ChatGPT for everything, and they're blindly trusting it. In most of the time, it's working, but a lot of the time, it's also not working. And this is going to become even larger challenge in the future. And you also probably hear that during the course of the model, let's say life, it is degrading because it's learning on the wrong patterns. So it's really going to be important to be able to evaluate what's real and what's not real. And before blindly trusting, what is the source? Is this true? Even I, for my personal reasons, I'm rarely using AI to do something that I don't know. So how I'm using AI is often either to give me inspiration, then to check it later, or to basically write or do something that I would do anyway, but do it faster and in a nicer way. So I would say critical thinking is by far the most important one. But then I would also say, of course, prompt engineering will be super important. So the ability to ask the right questions, the ability to tell the models how to shape the response. I think it was also nice examples when these Mid-Journeys and DALL-Es, these image generation models became popular. It was very popular use case to go to ChatGPT, ask what is the best prompt to generate the image in Mid-Journey, right? Basically doing the AI for prompting, and this is definitely the skill that we will have to learn. Of course, we also have to learn by doing. So I think Sara was mentioning, or we were just talking yesterday, in Kyndryl and Samlink, each employee has to build at least one of their own agents so that they know how this is working. And also, as Sara and Philippe mentioned before, it's going to be critical for us to stay up to date, to read the news, to read what's happening, and to read books, of course, right? Because these are rarely generated with, they're also generated with AI. Actually, a colleague of mine wrote the book with AI, which is now selling on the eBay, and I think that he made something like 20K or in 2 months.
Read old books. There are plenty of them in the library.
He's printing them and then selling over the eBay. Oh. But yeah, I know what you meant. I derailed a little bit. But yeah, I think it's going to be very important to also stay educated and stay up to date, because what may be available, I think we heard that before, but what may be super relevant, let's say a year or 6 months ago, is deprecated already by today's standards, right? So basically, this is changing on a weekly basis, and it's going to be important to stay up to date. But again, critical thinking, I would say, is the most important one.
I will also add one, if I may, is the also learning how to converse. That is also with different stakeholders from the enterprise. So today, let's take the example. There is a company, so you've got an IT department, there is a compliance, there is business, there is sales, there is marketing. So how often actually at both ends they talk to each other? Or they don't. So, or not that much. So the conversation within which actually there will be that will become more like as an AI centric, but also AI will bond actually people together within the same thing, because everybody is after an outcome in the end. We are not anymore after creating, writing a piece of code or proofreading or something, get an approval of someone, and then having like some kind of waterfall decisioning. This era is completely over. So building more relationship within the company, get to learn to know new friends who actually have very insightful ideas how to push the ball forwards, how to program these AI agents.
Yeah, I just thought of funny joke that was popular like a year ago. So there were basically two guys. The first guy was basically showing the other, look how great the AI is. I can write a simple sentence and it will generate the long email for me. Amazing. And then the other picture was guy telling another friend, look how great the AI is. I can take the full long email and convert it to one sentence only. So it's kind of where we are also heading. But I also wanted to mention something else when we are talking about the enabling and trainings and usage of the AI. So we have been focusing a lot on how to educate ourselves and educate, let's say, the employees to be able to use the AI. But it's also important to make the AI applications human friendly, basically easy to use. We know if you go today to ChatGPTs or these chatbots that are available, they're super straightforward to use. But in the enterprise environment, it's often not the case. Often it's not only the the chatbot, but there are, let's say, the buttons, the forms, the calculations, and we don't want to force or push our employees to learn tons of new, let's say, interfaces, tons of new, let's say, approaches. But the idea is to make our solutions as simple as possible for the user. And what we will have to do in a lot of the cases is not only to optimize the existing flow, but reimagine the flow completely. Because now we have new capabilities, new abilities, and if you are just trying to do the same as before but faster, we're not going to achieve as good of our results as we can with totally reimagining the thing. So I think this is also an important aspect that we have to talk about.
Interesting. So AI can be very seductive. We need to train ourselves. It starts with the school. It starts with being parent. It starts, and in the business, ensuring that we can keep that critical thinking to ensure that AI does not overrule, but that every end user, every consumer feels confident in what we are offering in services empowered by AI. And then, of course, making it transparent and nicely, smoothly usable. Good insights and reflections. As we are here now in this event, bringing people together. Also tomorrow there's an important event. How do you see the importance of partners, networking, ecosystem? How do you experience that and use that in your daily job, Jukka?
Well, partnering and ecosystems have been important stuff in banking for a long time. So I might be wrong here, but I'm willing to say that not that much of a difference. But the vendor lock stuff maybe brings one point of view that if we want to control the risk, we need to make some kind of selection about the ecosystem we're in. At least I want to avoid a situation where we use tens of different AI models and programs and stuff like that. So maybe there's at least that major partner selection, that what's the framework for AI and what's the selected one, and then stick with it and hope you made the right choice. Something like that.
Right. I see. I see the partnership. Perhaps a different viewpoint. When we think about, perhaps if you remember, like when it was 20 years ago, we talked about customer-centric type of service. You focus on the outcome, delivering a certain service to a customer. Okay. Now we are entering AI-centric because there are many stakeholders that needs to be involved, and they needs to be involved. They needs to be agile, and basically all are aiming at an outcome, not at a waterfall. So it's like sprints in real time type of thing. So, but when I think about agentic, for instance, I think that there is no ownership of agentic. You were highlighting that yes, there are great tools available. The agents, it's very much up to the prime, let's say, contributor. I would say the controller of the data, the bank, for instance, right, to decide, okay, this is going to be our main agentic, but we can also have some other agentic and sub-agentics and sub-agents and so on. So in your demo, it was great to see like which CRM that was it SAP or, yeah. So basically there were third-party agents and they were talking to each other. And this is how it goes. Because in the end, we need to trust the agents that are solid, that are developed by vendors that know very well their core features, their core system, their core business. Because in the end, when you think about, let's say, rendering an outcome, let's say, loan origination needs to take a decision. Okay, but everything is handled within the lending system. So it's a loop. So you start, you ask, is this application good? Then you have a different process. You check things with agent. And then in the end, the compliance officer says, yeah, that's good. Go ahead, you can offer. So what I'm saying is that from a partnership perspective, I foresee a partnership of agents. But of course, we have to be very careful. And I will say is that trust the agents, combine the agents that are actually solid proof from the vendors themselves. This is not a wizard thing anymore. No one can invent an agent and just basically tell the agent is going to do that job, especially if the agent doesn't know the system in the first place. So a partnership of agents.
I think this is a good point, and at the end, it's going to be all about collaboration. And I'm a huge advocate for collaboration. Earlier today, we had an interesting conversation here during the networking part. Even inside of the company, there is usually too many silos competing who is going to be the first with the best AI solution, right? Instead of working together for the benefits of the bank. And it's the same also externally, right? Sometimes companies try to do everything in-house, but there are reasons the ones who are succeeding are partnering, right? So if you start with the infra, only the ones who are focusing on the infra will be able to provide the best rate, the most advanced feature, right? Rather than building this on your own. Then, for example, for building the LLMs, a lot of the companies, they have idea, okay, I'm going to build a smarter LLM, I'm going to build the better LLM. But for majority of the customers, this is just not possible. They don't have enough data, and even if you would, it would be too costly, too expensive if you're not sharing this with the rest of the market. This is another case. Then, for example, okay, you know your bank best, you know your processes. This is the expertise that you're bringing to the table. But if we are talking about, let's say, the AI adoption and technology adoption, there are companies who went through these processes multiple times already and were able to learn. So even if you would go and hire the smartest people in the company, you're doing this for the first time. So you didn't have the experience to learn that before. So this is, for example, the expertise that we or Samlink bring to the table. So at the end, I think it's really going to be collaboration, the ecosystem of varieties of different vendors, or varieties of different partners who are going to co-create this story, and at the end, everybody is going to benefit.
Mhm.
So in one word, collaboration, I think, is the key.
I agree. Thank you. Let's open up for some questions from the audience. Is there someone who has a question? Okay, you're first. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Mikko Kesti from Nomain. We've been talking today a lot about how to deploy agents, and it sounds fantastic and easy peasy, right? But I think that's not the truth. So my question is that many companies like banks, they have really, really complex systems. Mm-hmm. And the data flows are unclear, and business logic cannot be always extracted that easily. So how do you deploy an agent or this agentic system if you don't know your basic stuff, so to speak, basic workflows and everything like that?
Yeah. Okay, let me go ahead. Okay, so I will answer this in two ways. So before this year, the traditional approach was to go to the data foundation and fix it. To give an example, I think later I was sharing here as well. In the past year, we had a couple of customers who wanted to start and deploy some AI agents, not AI agents. Back then, we were not calling them agents, but there were simple RAGs or simple GenAI solutions. And some of them started, some of them not, but the results were not there. There was too many hallucinations. Even the AI was not able to pick up into its mind. I can share the example from Mexican sugar producer. They decided their basically CIO, every time he asked his people, the different department, the same question, he was getting different answers. And he was like, okay, I have enough of this. Let me build the AI which will give me the objective truth. But what happened after the deployment, even the AI was not able to make up its mind because there were too many data silos and there were not single source of truth. So basically the information that should be the same in two different systems was written differently. So what we did, we told them, look, before we continue with that, let's do a one step back. Back then we implemented the data platform, do the data cleaning, establish proper governance, establish the single source of truth, and after that start deploying the agents. And also one more thing that we're doing right now, because we have a lot of customers, we started the conversation about the agents, but then we come back, okay, they're struggling with RAG. The RAG is not able to, we're all familiar with RAGs, right? This is basically retrieval augmented generation, where you basically take existing large language model and give it the access to your databases. So every time it is providing you the answer, it is checking with your own documents. So they are implementing this, but the results are still not there. Because in a lot of the cases, you have similar documents and the AI doesn't know which document to look at. Or maybe you have different versioning. Or you have different paragraphs with similar text, but again, it's up to the AI to decide which one is which, and they don't know this. And the answer for this is actually the semantic modeling. So basically building the graph model that is teaching the AI relationship between different data sources, between different data points. And as a result of that, the AI is able to better answer those questions. So this is the first one. But then the second one, what we're also doing, if you remember earlier when I was showing this high-level architecture for the agentic AI framework, we had a component for the agentic ingestion. So what we're doing with that, we're basically we're giving agents the access to your environment, and then the agents are able to connect to your databases, to connect to your data lakes, and basically trying to understand your structures, trying to understand, let's say, correlations, and based on that, help you prepare the data. It's quite forward-thinking approach. In some cases, it is not working as good yet, but in some other cases, it's working flawlessly. So recently, we were working with a customer which is having all of their data on mainframe, and this was actually working pretty good. And if you would be interested, we also have the demo on that, which we can show.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back afterwards.
I think it's an.
I hope I answered your question. Okay.
It's an excellent question. I like the way you put the single point of single source of truth. So that I will add to this that, you know, when embarking into such a journey, especially with different legacy systems, and that's also something that we know pretty well, it's important to be super focused on each and every use case. And to be able to do this, you need to bring around the table people who know very well the business, the outcome, the expected outcome, the ones who've had the problems, the ones who follow the system that have been doing this for years. So they know exactly the pitfalls actually to solve, along with the developers. So there is also a very drastic approach to basically solving one single problem at a time. So this is the way to learn, and this is the way to better the accuracy and better the outcome of the previous systems, actually. And then, of course, on a higher level, there is also the ingestion of course, the data and data lake, providing that, of course, the data, everything is accessible and can be digested by the framework. Jukka, would you like to add something?
No, perfect answers. Maybe I can add that we need to all start from somewhere. So I think there are lots of quite straightforward processes where it's kind of easy to get good results with agents. But also what Žiga said, that 2 years ago, even the simplest one, gathering information about documents, that they weren't working, but today that they are. But the quality of the data is super important.
Yeah, it's basically GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Good. I would say another question, but I see your time is up. So I would invite all of you, the question that you have, to take it with you and keep it for the after session. When we close, there's still an opportunity to have a final network or to connect. We are all reachable through the LinkedIn or other channels, so don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, I would like to thank all our panel participants, Jukka from Savings Bank, Philippe from Samlink, Žiga from Kyndryl, and thank you all three for your wise insights and experiences with AI. It was a pleasure to have you here and looking forward to collaborate further.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.